Good evening. It is 5 p.m. and I call the Public Safety Committee meeting to order on February 17th. I'm Rob Watton, Chair, and along with me, I've got Council Members Cotton and Holloway, and the rest of the dais includes Dina Burke, City Attorney, Michael Chambliss, City Administrator, James Mayhew, Mayor, and Robert Thrall, and our newest addition, and your name is escaping me, Rebecca. Thank you so much for being here. All right. Well, with that, our very first order of business is to approve the agenda, and it's always nice to see visitors in our audience. So we'll get to you in just a moment and I'll explain how that works. But we'll start off with the agenda approval. Do I have any corrections, additions? I believe Councilmember Cotton, you have an item you want to include.
Yes, I wanted to note the difference between our last meeting's agenda layout has changed to this meeting. And what's missing is our long-term the next topic under discussion, items for future discussion has been deleted from the current agenda. And
Okay.
I'd like to move that we add that and then we can approve that amended agenda.
All right. So adding future discussion items, do you have any comments,
Just-
Councilmember Holloway?
Question, do you have an item for future that you would like for future discussion?
Sure, we always do.
Well, I mean, staff may have just left it off because they didn't have item for future discussion. So if we get an item, it may come back on. I'm
Well,
worried is this a standard practice here or is this just?
in public safety, we.
So Councilmember Cotton,
Yes, it has been a standard item on the public safety agenda.
can you speak into it?
As it has been a standard item on the public safety agenda for the last 2 years that I'm aware of. And it's a topic that when it comes up, Chairman Watton has asked for input from the committee as far as items to look for in the future or concerns.
Is there any objection to adding that?
No objection.
Okay, so and just going forward, we'll just make sure that it's on the agenda. So it's an oversight. Okay,
No, it's intentional.
okay, all right.
Because we had no item for discussion. Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mayor.
when there's no item, we didn't want to leave a blank header,
Okay,
so we just took it off. So you see, if you go to other council or committees, some of them have it, some don't. Depends if we know what we're planning to bring at the next committee meeting. But if you'd like to have that there, just regardless, and we kind of had an internal debate, should we leave it there when there's nothing, or should we just pull it off to make it simpler? But whichever way you want to go is fine. It's your agenda, of course.
okay. So if there's no objection, we'll just add it to tonight's agenda and staff going forward, we'll just make sure that it's there as a placeholder, whether or not there's something there. All right. Any other corrections, additions to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we will accept the agenda as presented and amended. All right, we move on to public comments, and we're excited that you're here in person. We always take comments also online. If you want to send comments into the city clerk or to myself or to the mayor or the administration or any one of the council members, we will make sure that those get forwarded on to everyone else. So with that, the way it works is any item related to public safety, we invite you to come forward, state your name, place of residence, your address for the record, so that we have that. Get 3 minutes each. And if it's appropriate and at the discretion of the chair, we may or may not take action. A lot of things we've done actually because people have been here, residents have been here, and the city administration's here. And if there's things that we need to address, we do. And we did that back in March or April of 2024 and took some intermediate steps. on traffic speeds through school zones specifically. So with that, I open up the floor for any resident or anyone in the room that would like to speak on matter of public safety for 3 minutes.
Chair, if I could,
Yes.
the mechanics on the podium are such that there's a countdown
Ah,
that you'll
yes.
see just to your right. It'll count down from 3 minutes. And then when you're getting close to the end, the green light will turn to yellow. And then when you're out of time, it'll go red.
Gosh.
Okay.
And we're glad you're here.
Okay, thank you. My name is Caitlin Wissink. I live at 39636 Southeast Park Street. So I'm on Park Street in between the high school and the middle school, along with my 2-year-old son and my husband, Andrew Wissink, who actually wrote this speech. But he got stuck at work, so I'm going to be reading it on his behalf. Councilmember Cotton, thank you for your consistency on this issue. As a former EMT, you understand what traffic accidents actually look like on the ground. This isn't theoretical, it's about what happens on our streets. I imagine you also understand how frightening it would be to respond to a call involving a child struck at high speed. That's why we should be willing to take reasonable, effective steps now to prevent that from ever becoming a reality here. Councilmember Holloway, I'd like to address you directly. I understand you've raised concerns about moving too quickly on this. Living on this street, in addition to cars screaming down the road, we've seen drivers doing donuts at the intersection of Meadowbrook and Park. We've seen dogs struck by cars. A driver going too fast veered off the road and totaled our parked vehicle. I share that simply to explain why I believe this is not a theoretical issue. I want to walk through the numbers and explain why the manual enforcement approach alone just won't get us where we need to be. I did the math on the 2025 accreditation report. Last year, our officers made roughly 1,400 traffic stops. At 15 minutes per stop, that represents 350 man-hours. However, the speed study on your desk tonight recorded over 23,000 potential violations in just 3 days. To achieve even a fraction of the safety this ordinance provides, using your manual model, our officers would have to make 144,000 stops a year. That is 36,000 man-hours, the equivalent of 17 full-time officers for an entire year doing nothing but traffic stops. When you look at the math, choosing a model that is dramatically less efficient, one that cannot realistically address even a fraction of the violations we're seeing, would be a serious management error. This brings me to the issue of priorities. When clear safety data is in front of us, I believe it deserves action. I asked this committee to make safety the priority. I served 4 years in the 2nd Ranger Battalion, again speaking for my husband, where risk assessment and planning were critical. One thing I learned is that when preventable risk is clear, responsible leaders act before something goes wrong. A 2-ton vehicle traveling at 93 miles per hour through a school zone presents a serious risk. Addressing that risk with limited enforcement capacity is unlikely to produce meaningful change. Addressing it with effective, scalable tools does. I'm not here simply to criticize. I'd like to suggest 2 paths forward. I'm asking the committee to vote yes on AB 26004 tonight, while also pursuing a second and an innovative solution so that we have 2 solutions on the table, not 0. The first path is the ordinance before you. It gives our city a practical tool to improve safety right away. The second path is innovation. Councilmember Watton, if we want to lead in this state, we should address ActiBump, or we should research ActiBump, a Swedish active infrastructure system that uses an inverted speed bump mechanism. Drivers traveling at the limit experience a flat roadway. Those speeding encounter a lowered hatch that creates a physical reminder. This option addresses privacy concerns as it requires no cameras. WashDOT's city safety and safe routes to school grant windows are currently open. Washington State is actively seeking first in the nation safety solutions. We could potentially secure state funding for innovative infrastructure while using cameras to provide immediate protection on our streets. This doesn't have to be a choice between action and study. We can move forward on AB 26004 while directing staff to explore additional infrastructure solutions. The speed study is complete, the data is clear, the grant windows are open. I respectfully ask you to act with the urgency this issue deserves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well done. Anyone else that'd like to step forward? You, you raised the bar.
Sure,
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes.
if I just could, so
Yes.
I apologize if that thing blinks at you a lot. We seem to be having some mechanical difficulty with it. So if it sort of behaves odd, just ignore it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hit something?
No,
Oh, okay.
that's very good.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kristen Fiedler. I live at 39649 Southeast Park Street, right across the street from Caitlin. I come with no facts. I only come with my subjective experience of traffic on the road. First off, I want to thank you for addressing this concern. I've noticed the changes that you've made so far, like the blinking pedestrian light for people crossing the street right in front of Snoqualmie Elementary School. I've noticed the speed limit ticker thing that shows your speed. I think that's helpful. It's always helpful when people are aware of what they're doing. One thing, I did watch the video of your last meeting, and you addressed the speed study that happened, and I was a little disappointed to see that there wasn't a speed study happening on Southeast Park Street, like in front of the Snoqualmie Elementary School, because a lot of the traffic that we see coming from high speeds is coming from like Southeast Bulch Ave or Northwest Bulch Ave. I can't remember what the street is, but it's Bulch Ave. And they're coming down the elk fields and they're going really fast. And our stop sign at the end of our street is the first stop sign that you get on that long stretch. And I almost wish that we could just put more stop signs throughout all of downtown Snoqualmie, just because that is an indicator that you need to slow down. I've noticed stop signs pop up in North Bend, near North Bend Elementary School, and it has changed my behavior when I'm driving in that area. And I don't know if that's like a viable option for us, but maybe some more indicators for drivers other than a speed sign that is hidden by trees or branches, something that's more tangible and maybe not as expensive. And yeah, that's it. I hope that we continue working on this because it is a great concern for all of us with small kids in the area. So thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Anyone else? Please.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Hadley Everts. I live at 39621 Southeast Park Street. These are my neighbors. And I also live right in between the elementary school and the high school. I'm also a member of the Parks Commission. I want to start by saying thank you to the police department for funding this study, the time and the resources. Also to the whole council and to the whole government for all the things that we've seen. Kristen did a good job of recapping, but the action is really appreciated and we talk about it and celebrate it on our street. So thank you. I am here today as a citizen that lives in the school zone, and I want to support the city pursuing speed enforcement cameras. From my own experience as a driver and from the data in the presentation, speed cameras are an extremely effective solution to the rampant speeding that we're seeing. The study reports that 75% of the people driving on Meadowbrook are speeding during school hours, and that the cameras will reduce instances of speeding by 95%. This sounds like an incredible improvement to the safety and quality of life of our neighborhood. I'm also hopeful that it could have like a halo effect on the street racing that we know goes on Mill Pond and Rennig, that also kind of overlaps into Meadowbrook and Park Street. If any council members are not convinced of the seriousness and pervasiveness of speeding on Meadowbrook, I would happily host a viewing party in my front yard any day, anytime. Seattle has had these cameras since 2006. If there are concerns about data privacy and citizens for surveillance, I would encourage the city to learn from Bellevue, Seattle, Issaquah, and the 15 plus other Washington cities that are comfortable with this technology. I hope the city invests in these cameras as a proven way to make a major impact on the high volume of unsafe driving happening. Enforcement at its current level is still resulting in 75% of cars speeding, and I just don't believe that investments made in additional patrols will have nearly the impact as investments in this camera enforcement program. Maybe it doesn't drive revenue, but this is money and time invested in improving public safety, specifically the safety of our youngest citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Hadley. Anyone else? Okay. Ah, yes, Mr. Chambliss.
Chair, we have had an audience member online trying to raise their hand, and I just wanted to have you go ahead and go over our policy one more time about how they can email in, but we can't.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Uh, First of all, we want to thank everybody that's here tonight because it's taking time away from your busy evenings and kids. This is an incredible topic, very important to us, and deeply appreciate that. And we have somebody else online. Unfortunately, we are not accepting online Zoom comments. However, we encourage you to write as long of a letter as you'd like and send it into our city clerk, and we will make sure that it gets distributed, that your voice will be heard as well. So with that, we
There was the agenda bill later on.
yeah, if we have time, we'll allow, if they're here, we'll do our best to accommodate them. Thank you, Hadley. So with that, if there's no objection, I will.
Right there.
Oh, is the person here?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. Oh, I know him. Yeah, you're next up, Nick, if you want to. Thank you. Yeah, you get 3 minutes at the podium
I was like
on
trying
anything
to
on
rush to make it.
public safety, not on plumbing though.
Not on plumbing.
Okay.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Postiglione. I live at 8385 Euclid Avenue, southeast over here in Snoqualmie. With my neighbors, we attended the meetings last year and was happy to see the former mayor, Mike. You were out there. You came and stood on the corner and watched at that four-way stop sign, right, with me. And I know you had some traffic engineers out there. You dropped in the speed cameras, had those lights flash. I ride my bike to school with my daughter and soon my other son. And really from the park, that's where I live, past the high school, it's a long straightaway. I'm not an engineer. I don't know what the answer is, what fire trucks going over speed bumps and all that. All I know is it's a speedway. It's a straightaway. I speed there all the time, admittedly, on accident. It just promotes it. It's hard to go 20 miles an hour when there's fine print on the sign that tells you what the speed limit is between these hours. There's not even a freaking flashing light there. I really think something can be done. I think the traffic study that you guys did is great. I think it shows that there's a problem. And I think whatever, you guys are a lot smarter and know the solutions to it and how quick you can do it and how much it might cost, right? And all that sort of thing with it. And then my neighbors on Meadowbrook too have the same problem from Meadowbrook past the high school. A year or two ago, a kid somehow in a 20-mile-an-hour zone flipped his car, right? They're high school kids. They're teenagers driving big F-150 trucks. They don't know how to drive them. They're showing off to their friends. A flashing light, although there aren't any, won't stop that, right? There needs to be an engineered traffic solution that naturally slows people down. It's not the police sitting out there, which is great. It's all great. But it really, I think, needs to be an engineered solution that actually slows people down and forces them. The camera is very effective. My plumbing trucks and my plumbers get them all the time in Issaquah. And I always got to tell my guys, slow the heck down in the school zone. It's frustrating, but hey, you pay the price for speeding in a school zone, right? Until, prevent something bad, hopefully not prevent something bad from happening. So I think that covers everything. Anything else? Yeah. Thank you.
All done. Thank you, Nick. All right, with that, I will bring the public comment to a closure. Unless there's any objection, hearing none, we'll close the public comments. And now we move on to the minutes. Approval of the minutes dated February 2nd, 2026. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Cotton, seconded by Councilmember Holloway. Any corrections, additions to the minutes? Hearing none, we will accept the minutes as presented. Now we move on to the part that some of you were waiting for, me included, and that's the presentation of the school zone speeding. Chief Haracy. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm going to share my screen here to get y'all some information. Good evening. Today we're here to talk about traffic safety cameras in our school zones. We brought it up a couple of weeks ago to you. Go a little more in detail, kind of answer some of the questions you'll have or may have. Back in March of 2024 was my very first meeting with the city. Residents came into this meeting and started addressing a lot of concerns about speeding in the school zones. That has carried on to other council members and to the police department throughout 2024 and 2025. With a lot of increased concerns, these concerns focused on areas around the high school, on Park Street, Meadowbrook Way, and Timber Ridge Elementary on Snoqualmie Parkway, and as you heard, even on the other side by Snoqualmie Elementary today. The police department increased their patrols. We started conducting more traffic stops, providing warnings and or infractions based on officer discretion. Though with that, we also deployed our speed trailer, as you heard earlier, that has been out in the school zone near the Snoqualmie Elementary for almost an entire year, except for the time where it was vandalized and we had to pull it out and fix it. In the meantime, we also worked with the Public Works Department. They trimmed trees and installed temporary rumble strips, as you have seen when you drive out there now, you'll hit a couple of them. They are temporary and they're designed to break away, especially when the plows hit them and things like that, so they don't damage our plows. During our enforcement for 2025, and I covered some of these numbers with y'all 2 weeks ago, but in the intersection, specifically at Snoqualmie Parkway and Swenson, we issued 56 infractions. There were 4 accidents. Meadowbrook and Park Street had 9 infractions issued and 2 accidents. But the numbers get a little bit more staggering for what the officers have been doing when you just look at the streets. On Meadowbrook Way, we had 47 infractions, 17 collisions, and 150 traffic stops. So you can see the difference between with the traffic stops of what we've issued citations on and where we've given warnings. So it's about a third. Snoqualmie Parkway, 238 infractions issued, 38 accidents, 723 traffic stops. And on Mill Pond, and I just threw this in there because we had one earlier this year, 6 infractions, 7 accidents, 22 traffic stops, and the one this year, one of the sergeants stopped a car doing 82 and a 40 on his way to school. It just shows that in that area we do have an issue. Despite these increased enforcement activities, we're still seeing these numbers. With that, I reached out to Issaquah PD and Issaquah Court, who we currently contract with, and asked them who they utilize for their traffic safety camera in the school zone in front of the high school. That's Vera Mobility. Vera Mobility provided a 3-day speed study for free. And in September of 2025, we conducted that speed study over 4 locations. Snoqualmie Parkway up near Swenson, Meadowbrook, Park Street, and then I added one down on the Parkway near Better Way, Fisher area, where there's a school bus stop, and the police department has seen a number of violations in that area and received some complaints. So this is the speed study. Y'all have it in the packets, the staggering numbers, and I'll just show the one on, highlight the one on in front of the high school. Total potential violations over the 3 days was 1,729. Out of that, during the school zones, it was 1,615. So only 114 were outside of that school zone time frame. And the school zone runs from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Kind of break it down a little bit further in these slides. And just to give you a reference, the orange mark in there is where the speed limit is. So during school zones, we've marked it approximately at the 20-mile-an-hour speed zone. Everything to the right of that mark is what we see in violations. And on this one for Meadowbrook in the 9,000 block, we had 2 going over 67 miles an hour during those 3 days. The gray side is outside the school zones because the speed study ran for 24 hours a day. And it continues that way through the next ones in the 8500 block over the speed limit. We had 1,307 just between 22 miles an hour and 26 miles an hour, with 5 being between 37 and 41 in that section. So I've listed those out in this presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions on those. Timber Ridge Elementary, we also listed those here as well on the Parkway. And for instance, on this one, the one that stands out is there's one over 67 miles an hour, and it goes, we have it listed up to 999, but we are very clear that it's in the 80-mile-an-hour range on that one. So we have all these, and like I said, I'm happy to go over that. On the side, on the far right of these numbers, you'll see the total amount of traffic in each direction that was traveled over those roadways during those days. So what we're looking at is trying to come up with a solution to help with this problem. It takes a lot for an officer. A traffic stop averages 15 to 20 minutes per stop. So we're averaging roughly about 3 stops per hour if that's all they did. And so in looking at what we can do, the state law allows us to allows cities, municipalities to utilize traffic cameras. And having contacted the court and working with this, we have looked at Vero Mobility through this because of what I'm about to talk about. I want to discuss the different various types of speed cameras, and one of them is what is classified as an automated plate reader, an ALPR. Those are cameras that are continually running, that are taking photos or videos of the cameras and communicating with a law enforcement database, running that plate to determine whether or not it's a stolen vehicle, there's warrants, things like that. What we're looking at in this particular case are those that are not automated speed readers, automated license plate readers. These cameras specifically take a photo of the violation only. When it detects the violation based on the radar and the calibrations and the settings that we have in it, it'll take 2 photos of the rear of the vehicle and a 12-second video of the actual violation. Nothing is transmitted to the database or to any law enforcement database to run. It is, it doesn't take pictures of the drivers or passengers or anything like that. It's specifically the rear of the vehicle. When keeping in mind the privacy concerns of our community and the concerns that council may or may not have, depending on how each person feels, is we're looking at those that are not transmitting data. We're looking at only those that can take the photo. It uploads a photo onto a server or a hard drive that's on the camera system, and it takes about an hour for it to be moved to the servers at Vero Mobility. In that process, it's all encrypted, and then with providing a feedback to us and the court for approval of any citations. It doesn't do it automatically. Vero Mobility has established relationships with Issaquah Municipal Court, who we currently contract with, and this allows for an easier implementation. They provide customization of speed enforcement settings, the parameters that we would be setting, and only those violations that meet that parameter will be documented. When we look at the concerns for the privacy of our community and those traveling to and from Snoqualmie or through Snoqualmie, the data is encrypted and it meets national standards, and we own the data. It's not released to anybody by Vero Mobility. They have to communicate through us on anything that is issued.
Hang on.
Can, I think you're almost done with your presentation and then we'll take questions.
And the bottom statement comes straight from Vera Mobility. The data belongs to us. If we get our public records request or anything, it is provided to us. The vendor then contacts us and will release the information to us, or we would be able to pull it and send it out, depending on the amount of data. Public records request, should we get one, they would compile all that and forward it over to us. Implementation of a program like this, we would increase signage, provide for warnings, an only warning period, would start enforcement for severe offenders. We're looking at approximately 10 citations per office, per the day, so that we can manage our workload. And that would make us a revenue neutral on that piece. This system allows for an education and reduction of enforcement, and it allows the officers to continually maintain the community policing model we're moving towards, so that the community sees us versus constantly responding to calls or continually writing tickets, doing traffic stops, and not being out in the public with on a community policing basis. With that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Councilmember Holloway.
Hey, my comments are not a reflection of the agenda bill before us, but in reference to the presentation here. One, you don't own the machine that this data exists on once it's in their system. You don't directly control its deletion or retention. They do through their service, and you may request it through their application. To say that we own the data is a marketing statement, not fact. Okay, so let's get that straight. We can't touch it without going through them. We can't delete it without going through them. Point of fact, they own the machine it's on, they own the building it's on, they provide the electricity, they own it. Okay? So that stating that marketing statement gets me a little riled up, as you can tell. Okay? Standard encryption over network is just standard things. Is there no other vendor that provides this kind of service with just pictures, statement of speed? And that's pretty much it in a short video.
So there are other vendors for this, for traffic safety cameras. One of them reached out to us. I've sat through a couple of presentations. They highly focus on an ALPR system. The other reason that we're looking at this particular system is they're already integrated with the court, which is obviously we're working with them for not prosecution, but the prosecution of it. And it's a proven piece that they're not ALPRs. Gen Optics is one of those that has reached out to us, and I've sat through their presentations, and they're huge on the automated plate readers. And they're continually running and providing, that security issue that everybody is concerned about in our.
And your officers have no ability to submit digital evidence into the court of Issaquah? Pictures, videos, statement of speed? I'm really concerned. This is my concern, that for convenience, we have engaged this vendor. They provided us sales data that says, yes, their system will do amazing things for you. I expected nothing different. This is not to say I deny that there is speeding. There is speeding. I can see that. I wouldn't be that stupid. There is speeding, and it's bad and needs to be controlled. Okay. What I'm really is I've got a solution looking for a problem right now. Professionally, I need the administration to go out and see what the market can bring to bear for the requirements we have, and what are the price points on each of those solutions. I haven't seen that. And that's not how you professionally do business. Okay, so I need to know what those other options are. And out of ignorance, I do want to know also, speed bumps downtown, good, bad, mediocre, I don't know, tell me. Stoplight camera versus a speed camera on Parkway? Same effect, not effect, I don't know, tell me. Show me some options, not just the first person I talked to who does this looked really great and did some great things for us, and let's go with it. Okay? So I want that analysis of options to occur and for the council to be presented, what are the cost figures on these things? Be aware, I've heard very few instances where these systems generate revenue. Okay, so cost is of concern and cost of service is of concern. My third one is, I'm also concerned, you have not given consideration that we are relinquishing our ability to regulate the level of enforcement to an outside vendor. What we said is we're going to vary the enforcement practice to make sure that we offset the cost of this. The cost is determined by the vendor, which will determine what your variability is, and they have now determined the level of enforcement for the city. Okay, I just want some acknowledgement of that. Okay. But again, this is not a reflection. We should have options. I think the agenda bill presented tonight should move forward just so that there are options to consider. But I do want the next step to be done correctly.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is the concern about if they own the cameras, how does it prevent, it's, we don't necessarily have total control over the information is your concern. Is that fair?
I just don't want that glossed over. No matter which vendor you go to, that situation will exist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't want it glossed over to say it's our data. Well, no, really, no, it's not. It's their data. They provide it as part of the service to us and provide it to the court as part of the service. They control it. They care and feed of it. It's their system that has it. Okay, but I think that applies to no matter which vendor is discussed here.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
want appropriate framing of what that is.
Okay, I appreciate your comments. I'm going to go to Councilmember Cotton and then Mayor Mayhew. And we may just, continue to deliberate, but I want to make sure everybody's heard. Councilmember Cotton.
I'm thinking we should get one of those timers with the green light for Councilmember Holloway to let him know when his 3 minutes are up. Just
No.
Josh, but I did have several points as well, and I appreciate Chief listening to the community and making the point that these particular the school zone safety cameras are not the automated license plate readers and flock technology, which is what the community is most concerned about. And so I appreciate distinguishing that and looking at that information. I do think, as you've mentioned in your presentation, this, and as the community has mentioned, this is going to be a multi-prong approach. So this is only one aspect of it. I know Public Works has brought forward some ideas. You mentioned the temporary rumble strips. The biggest concern with putting in like speed bumps and things like that was the usage of the snow plows. And I appreciate the comment on the Scandinavian approach, the study, because that was actually brought up by our Public Works Department, where instead of making the speed bumps, there were some grooves made into the pavement that notify drivers to, as far as reducing the speed on straightaways, like you had said. So and they don't impact the snow plows. That was the, part of the concern. So the flashing cameras, all these things we have to keep in our repertoire as far as the safety approach for this. The questions I had along with Councilmember Holloway is regarding Vera Mobility. Their presentation brought up a couple of points that I was so concerned. They never mentioned, because I know they own the cameras, they store all the data, et cetera, but they never mentioned, oh, and they issue the citations, mail them out. They didn't mention what their percentage or their cut was. And so definitely getting down to kind of the budgetary aspects of things, we want to know.
That's in the agenda bill to come.
But as far as being able to compare vendors or, apples to apples as far as what everybody would be offering and what the cost point of that. But in in the presentation in the agenda bill, it did mention that they would provide expert testimony in court. Is that training our officers to do that, or they actually send somebody to court if there's a contesting of?
If expert testimony is needed, they would handle that. The officers will have a certain amount of training that they would be able to testify on what we've done, what our actions are. But if it became something more of when they calibrate, for instance, the radar, they're coming out to do that. Yes, and that's no different than what we do in our patrol cars now.
Do the same.
Our patrol cars were just all calibrated, all the radars were.
Yeah.
And the officers are not expected to do expert testimony on how those devices are calibrated. That is done on the company that we pay to do that. To answer your questions, we're presenting the problem, bringing forward the next item, which is an ordinance. To get started, the law requires that we have to have an ordinance in order to move forward. The next step after that would be looking at the vendors who, providing y'all all that, the cost, the contracts, because there are contracts that go along with this and all of that stuff. We're in the beginning stages of it. We have to start here, giving y'all at least what the problem is, what we've done so far with the information we have, and then we can present contracts and solidify everything else that comes forward down the road. This is the stepping stone of getting it to you in these baby steps based on the way the law says we have to do it, and that is first getting us to an ordinance. So I wanted to address the problem first, work on the ordinance, get that before you, because there's a process behind that. We have 2 readings and all of that stuff, and then we can start focusing on the contracts and the nitty-gritty of what goes into this. We're not oblivious to that fact that y'all are going to want that information. Finance is going to want that information and all that stuff that goes along with it.
So we're dealing with a couple issues. One is we have to change the ordinance, but before we do that, we have to understand what are possible solutions, and this is one of them. Is that a fair statement? I said I would get to Mayor Mayhew, and along the way, I just want to check in with the city attorney. Are we all good? Is there anything on your mind? I just see when the book comes out.
Oh, I was just getting ready.
Okay,
But
very
I'm
well.
fine.
Okay, excellent. Mayor Mayhew.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts. As the chief just was explaining, what we've done is separate what we're bringing to you into 2 pieces. The first is an ordinance allowing us to use automated speed cameras. The ordinance in front of you doesn't authorize any contract. It doesn't authorize any vendor. It just authorizes this to be done. But our thought was, in order for you to decide whether that's something you would be willing to authorize, you might have questions like, how much is this going to cost us? Do we have control over when tickets get issued? And any number of other questions. We've tried to capture all of them as you've asked them both tonight and 2 weeks ago. So the thing that I focused on in my review of this before it came to council was a couple things. What would it cost us? And just to be clear, this company that's being discussed, one of several companies. So I've heard loud and clear, you want to hear several proposals. We will give you the best 2 or 3 proposals that we can find. Although I will tell you, as the chief said, I certainly do not support automated plate reader technology, and so do not intend to bring you any of those unless you insist. But there are more vendors that are not automated plate vendor technology. So we'll bring you several of those. We use this one as a good example because this, we thought, very well could be the lowest cost because there's no cost of integrating into the court system. The court system that we use, they're already integrated into. So there's a fixed monthly charge that we pay for each one of these cameras. And what we then calculated is how many tickets would we need to issue in order to cover that cost? In other words, to not be out of pocket as a city. And those are the numbers that the chief told you. Then we looked at staffing. Do we have the staffing to do that, or are we going to have to add officers in order to do that? And as you heard him say, we can easily hit that number with our current staffing. We have no concerns about that at all. So as a reminder, we set the criteria under which the camera decides a violation has occurred. So it never even takes a photo unless it's exceeded the criteria we set. So there's no cost per citation. There's a cost per camera to have that in place. So what that sort of mathed out to show is that, okay, we can cover the cost of this with our existing police force. In fact, we could cover more than the cost of this with our existing police force, but we're comfortable that we can meet it with the officers we have. So we'll start out with that as our plan. So our cost would be neutral if that ends up being the vendor that you choose, that we choose, I suppose. So that will come to you separately. I just want to make a couple of other thoughts. It's not just the snow plows we worry about with the speed bump technology. We worry about our fire trucks and the damage to those very expensive apparatus when they go over speed bumps at speed, as well as other emergency vehicles. So there's a whole number of things that speed bumps create an issue for. There's ways of addressing those, but and we'll talk more about those others as we talk about those other enforcement types. So we've taken note of both public comment as well as your comments, and we'll come back to you separately from this matter, but soon, on other things that could also be done. So in summary, this was an example to show you this can be done within the budget we have with a proven technology, and our goal is not the money part, it's to make sure we can afford this, but the goal is to stop the speeding. And so we think this is a very effective way to really impact the speeding, and that's why we've brought it forward. So if you're willing to move forward with the agenda bill, which authorizes the technology, you still haven't authorized any vendor. We will come back to you with exactly what you've asked for in terms of comparative analysis of different vendors. That will come following fairly promptly following your passage of the ordinance, if you pass it, you being the council. And then you'll have a chance to make sure that those other questions are answered, and we've captured them. We'll make sure that's part of the presentation we bring you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holloway. And then the other thing is, I'll remind everybody, we've got less than 10 minutes. We've got about 8 minutes in an agenda bill, whether we deliberate on it tonight or move it to our next agenda. Councilmember Holloway.
No, I just wanted, in reference to the fee per infraction, the agenda bill to come up explicitly lines that out. It's not an option for any of the vendors that may come forward. It's not an option according to the ordinance.
So that's the fines that would be assigned to it.
Right,
So
and there's a paragraph about vendor pay. And in there, it specifically says vendor pay cannot be determined as a per infraction fee or something along those lines.
Correct.
If I could, Chair, so
Yeah,
the attorney, you
please.
captured that?
Yes.
All right, we'll make sure that's in there.
Well, it's already in there.
Oh,
That's
good.
what I'm saying, it's already in there.
Okay, well, it's not in there by accident, so.
And if there's no objection, we'll move directly to the AB 26-004, the ordinance adding chapter 10.13 automated traffic safety cameras to the Snoqualmie Municipal Code. Chief Racy, do you want to make some comments on that?
So this, as the mayor just stated, a lot of this is not in there by accident. State law dictates a lot of what we can and can't do with traffic safety cameras. Where, you know, how it's issued, the fines, maximum fines that can be set, and how payment is derived. It can't be per infraction and things like that.
That's per state law?
It's in the RCWs. It also, a lot of that law changed in 2024. I can email it to you if you'd like to see it. It's quite lengthy, about 4 pages long. But I think this is a good stepping stone for us to move towards trying to protect our youth in the school zones. I'm here to answer any questions for you. I know y'all have had time to look over it. It's quite lengthy on an ordinance, and I tried to cover everything that we could, and making sure that the city attorney is good with it and the prosecutor's office is good with it, and all of those organizations that we work with in this.
Mayor Mayhew.
Just a quick comment. I meant to cover this earlier. The only way an infraction can get issued is if our officer issues it. The company that we've looked at here may not be what you ultimately choose, but cannot issue infractions. That's state law. Only our officers can issue infractions. So the technology allows them to then view those pictures that were taken. It allows them to view the 12-second video, and then they make the determination, issue an infraction, don't issue one, issue a warning. So our officers completely control that. Just want to make sure you were clear on that.
And Councilmember Cotton.
And our officers would be going to court to testify in these cases.
If needed.
If they went to court.
Okay. With that, are there any other questions from the council members, or you feel comfortable in moving this forward onto the council agenda? Without any objection, we'll move it to council for consideration. With that, thank you very much, Chief. We've got 2 things left. A fourth quarter report that we put off from last time. I guess we'll invite you back for next time if there's no objection on that. And then we'll have a discussion around crisis intervention training for officers at our next committee meeting. Without any objection to that. And then finally, future discussion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Chair, just
Yes.
in consideration to some of that, the weight of some of those and the fact that we've postponed a couple of times, is there a consideration of starting the next committee meeting at 5:30? Or at 4:30?
4:30? Would there be any objections to starting at 4:30 from staff?
Are we having more presentations on?
How about we judge, we'll make that determination over the next week or so. Okay, but that's good. Yes.
Okay,
Mayor.
I'm not sure I understand. You're talking about starting your committee meeting at a different time?
Yeah,
No,
at
just-
4:30 instead of 5.
Just earlier,
We
if
got
need
time to
be.
finally get his report.
Oh, his report will not, you'll fit within your hour just fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
very
in
well.
fact, we just had those in case you were able to get through this topic this evening, but it's not urgent, so it's fine to wait, and it will not, you'll be fine with your 1 hour.
Okay, thank you very much. Finally, future discussion items. Councilmember Cotton, do you have anything that you'd like to bring up?
The time, I will email those to you.
Okay,
and
thank
then-
you very much. All right. If there's no objection, we will adjourn at 5:54 p.m. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.